What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. Autumn Nations is back upon us on the weekend for week 3. We've already done the preview video for France versus the Springboks. You can go check that one out after this one. This is, of course, where we check out the teams that have been announced they're going to be playing on the weekend. Having a look through them, think who's some good picks, some bad picks, some changes we might have made along the way, and then finally give a score prediction. If you've enjoyed this sort of style video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. So this one is going to be about Wales versus Argentina. So let's start off by talking about Wales first. Wales, the home team. Now, Wales last week had a rough game, shall we say, against New Zealand. The first half actually didn't really escape them too much. I actually was quite impressed by how much they were holding on. The lineouts improved dramatically from what we've seen in the last 2 years with the return of Ken Owens back in. But New Zealand being New Zealand, just relentless power again, and a pretty outrageous dummy pass that for some reason Nicky Smith bought, and we see them go for another try. So Wales came away from that one with quite a big loss, to be fair. New Zealand looked pretty good in that game. So Wales have got a lot to improve going into this one. So let's check out the team that's been announced to play in this one. Starting off in this front row, Gareth Thomas, Ken Owens, and Dylan Lewis. Now, scrimmaging last week, it began relatively strong. I think Wales managed to hold it out okay. It was just towards that later game. The power of New Zealand just getting involved. A really hard team to play against, especially with some big names missing in this Wales team. We know the injury list for Wales is quite long in the minute, so we'll see how they hold out against Argentina, who themselves, it was difficult to gauge how well their scrum was doing in their game against England, but Argentina are a team that love facing a big scrum if they can get the advantage. In the lock department, Will Rowlands and Adam Beard retain their 4-5 positions. I think this is the right move. I think Alan Wynne came on very early in the last game, and I don't really think he made that much of an impact. I think this is maybe still the way to go. One of the big issues coming into this Wales team, though, we saw last week against England how many points came for Argentina just from Boffelli kicking penalties. One thing Wales cannot afford to do in this game is give away a bunch of penalties, and I do say it every time I mention his name. Will Rowlands is up there for the penalty count. He was there again last week. His name was on that sheet for having penalties against him, especially when it comes to, like, you're driving mauls, jumping across in the line out, set pieces you just need to get right. You can't afford to give, well, a penalty in your own half, to be honest, against Argentina. So they're going to have to be really on the lookout, try and keep a clean game as much as possible. But the penalty count for Wales was massive last week. In the back row then, Dan Lydiot comes in the 6 shirt. Justin Tipuric, the captain, moves back to 7. And Taulupe Faletau remains in that number 8 shirt. Nice to see Dan Lydiot back. Offers a big threat. Of course, he was coming back in after a couple of years out. Came back in and got injured on his first game back. It was a real shame. He was having a great game up until then. I'm really hoping we get to see him for a good chunk of this game, getting involved. Power player, loves the breakdown, getting those jackals in. Hopefully no injuries picked up in this one. Justin Tipuric moving back to 7. Tommy Raffel picked up an injury against that New Zealand team, so is out for this one. But I prefer Justin Tipuric at 7 than at 6, to be fair. I think he makes more of an impact, so hopefully I think that'll be a good move. I quite like that back row. I think that's a good choice for them. In the halfback partnership, Thomas Williams and Gareth Anscombe. I'm going to say retain, even though they changed it up. Obviously Lee Halfpenny dropping out before the game against New Zealand meant Gareth Anscombe moved to fullback, and Priestland had to move in. Again, there was a couple of kicking issues coming for Priestland to that 10. I would love to see Gareth Anscombe actually hold a game out at 10. I don't think he played a terrible game. There was a few decision-making choices to do with, like, kicking the ball but then not chasing it, which I feel like you've got to get a bit more involved with. So I prefer to see him at 10, and hopefully he can have a good game there. In the centre partnership, Nick Tompkins and George North. Now, Nick Tompkins actually was going for it. He actually had a good game, I thought. George North, well, I sort of ran a bit of a crossing line on Rio Dyer's try last week, which I know a few people were a bit cross about. But hey, a try stands, that's how it is. To me, again, I think Owen Watkin came on in that game and had more of an impact than George North did. I mean, feel free to disagree with me down in the comment section if you want. I really want to see this centre partnership be Owen Watkin and Nick Tompkins. I say it every week, and they keep trying to do this. I think George North would actually be great coming on from the bench. He's now trying to be pushed into this centre position, but he can play on the wing. Put him on the bench. If there's an injury, bring him on. If not, you bring him on late game. He's a big power runner. We've seen him in the past in his career just knock through players. Imagine bringing him on in the 70th minute when players are tired. Then you have full steam George North fresh off the bench. I feel like that would be a better impact into the game for me. And then in the back 3 then, Rio Dyer on the left wing. Alex Cuthbert comes in on the right wing. And Rhys Zammit moves into fullback position. We are just chucking people everywhere over in Wales, aren't we? I did hear that Josh Adams was back in the squad, fine, fit, ready to go. I thought maybe we'd be seeing Josh Adams in this fullback position. Of course, Liam Williams and Halfpenny now out, so in terms of picking those fullback choices, a bit hard to come by. I'm not really sure if I've ever seen Zammit play at fullback, so we'll have to see how he gets on. Cuthbert on the right wing. He's been a bit of a glass cannon for me, Cuthbert, in the last year or so. His attacking game is actually doing pretty well. When he's running with the ball in hand, he's making good meters. He's actually a bit of a threat. It's the defensive side that worries me against Alex Cuthbert, especially when you've got people like Boffelli. We saw him score his try against England. Set plays run by Argentina, they're drilled into them. They're doing much better than we probably saw them in the last sort of 18 months, 2 years ago. They are getting these things down, passing it out wide. Let Boffelli run. He's a fast man. Do I trust Alex Cuthbert to be able to stop him on that wing? Could be tight, but nice to see Rio down there. Got his try last week, which is nice for him. First cap. Thought he did okay. A lot of people, again, questioning his defence. I think it's a really hard thing to stop Geordie Barrett mid-air. I don't hold that one against him too much. But as a back three, it's a bit sort of inexperienced where they're putting in. There's some big names in this Wales team, but I definitely feel like that injury list is beginning to hit this team a little bit. Moving on to the bench then, we have Ryan Elias, Rodri Jones, and Sam Wainwright. This is a bit of a middle ground replacement front three for me. I would like to see them get involved in the game. You want to be seeing these lads come on in the second half and make an impact. I want to be seeing the consistency in the line out sustain from watching Ken Owens go off to Ryan Elias come on. It's a tough ask. Ken Owens is playing good rugby at the minute, so hopefully Ryan Elias is up to the task. Rest of the replacement forwards, Ben Carter, a name I feel like we haven't really got to say a lot in this Wales team for a while, and Jack Morgan coming in there, who I think was it Jack Morgan that Pivac said he's not big enough to play rugby or something? I mean, get him on. He's doing good rugby at the minute. Be nice to see him come on. Not sure where he will come on. I can imagine him potentially coming on for Lydiot, maybe. I'm sure they'll probably want to keep Tipperick and Falatau. Maybe they'll adjust round, but he'll come on at some point there. And then in the replacement backs, Kieran Hardy, Rhys Priestland, and Owen Watkin. I thought Kieran Hardy actually had a bit of an impact last week. Rhys Priestland, I know, chucked in sort of in the deep end there, was just told you're going to play at 10, on your crack, got to do the full 80 minutes. Like I've already said, some of the decision choices I don't think were great for him, but Owen Watkin, I thought made good impact there. So overall, it's about the team you'd expect, but I feel like unfortunately Wales could be having potentially another long weekend against Argentina. Talking of which, we need to move on to talk about the Argentina team, who of course last week played England and managed to beat them at Twickenham. The bookies had them down as real outsiders. England were like 1-10. I think Argentina were about 6-1 going into that game. Discipline from both sides, not great. But other than discipline and sort of the aggression Argentina showed, I haven't actually got a lot of negatives against Argentina. I actually think if you got their discipline more under wraps, that could have been a real blowout game. I mean, if you get rid of the playing the 9 penalties, we saw 3 of them, I think, in the game. Just rubbish penalties that don't need to happen, just to put a little shot on, Port Viejo. So it wasn't necessary. You reduce that scoreline by 9 points. If it wasn't for Kramer having a little shot at someone else and actually getting into the defensive line, he would have been in position to have stopped Port Viejo's try. There's another 7 gone. You're talking about a 16-point difference because of your own discipline to not stay in the game. I think if Argentina actually just sort themselves out, just don't commit it, put the aggression in the right areas, this team could go really, really far. I'm really excited to see how Argentina build towards the World Cup. But they did come away with a win in England, which is a tough ask going to Twickenham. They did really well. England's discipline didn't really help them. They gave away a lot of penalty points, which of course Boffelli, the man, he got player of the round, I did see, for Autumn Nations in that week. So nice to see from him. Like I said, I think it's just getting that discipline under wraps and sorting them out. So looking at the team that's been announced for this one, I don't imagine we're going to see a great deal of changes across the way here. So we've got in the front row, Gallo, Julian Montoya, and Gomez Cordella. Now, Montoya had a superb game. I was really impressed by him. Couple of jackal penalties, absolutely key where you needed them to. Get him on that 30-40 metre line inside England's half. bang. 3 points for Buffelli, absolutely critical. There's a reason he's got that captaincy next to his name as well. In the lock department, Alemano and Lavanini going to be retaining their 4-5 positions. Again, I thought the line-out was working pretty well for them. We saw that set play off the back of how well they were constructing their line-out. A couple of issues with jumping across line-outs is just sort of becoming a thing now. Again, discipline, sort it out. I think it can work really well for them. In the back row, Juan Martin Gonzalez, who had a great game, had that little steal, had that sort of rip and kicked it on. That's how we actually got to see the build-up to that line-out try. Alongside him, Marcos Kramer and Pablo Matera, both running hard, both defending well. I don't think enough people talk about Kramer's defensive capabilities. I think he had one mistake in the game, and it was just that extra push that he didn't need to be in his own defensive line. Could have stopped Port Village try, but the defensive work all game, he just clatters people all day long. I think he's a really good player. In the halfback partnership, Bertrano and Santiago Carreras. Yep, again, I think this is the right combo to go for here. I think both of them are playing really well. I don't feel like Argentina are missing Sanchez, which I never thought I'd be sort of saying. I think they're playing really well together. In the centre partnership, De La Fuente and Moroni coming in there. We did see a couple of issues from De La Fuente last week. A couple of choices again. Choice passes, choice kicking. Quite there, not quite synergized up. Don't really know what the reason for that one is, but I still think he's a good player. He's got some good speed on him. He's probably going to be retaining that centre partnership for a little while. And then in the back three, Boffelli, Matteo Carreras, and Juan Cruz Malia. This is just the team, basically, we saw playing England. And they did really well. And if they keep that penalty count down, I don't really see why they couldn't do the same thing in Wales. I'm really looking forward to see this game, to see how both teams perform. In terms of the replacements then, we have Ignacio Ruiz, Tetas Chaparro, and Bello coming in here. So they're going to try and put some big boys on in that second half. Going to be a big way to go. Lucas Paulos and Issa will be joining alongside of Morales, Albornoz, and Orlando. Now, Albornoz, I think really fighting to sort of get a starting position in this team. They seem to keep putting him in, but I still think there's players that outshine him a little bit. In terms of a bench, this is a good bench. I wouldn't say it's necessarily the best Argentina have, but overall, I think it's looking pretty good for the Pumas. So in terms of a score prediction for this one then, guys, what do we think? Argentina and Wales, where are they going to go? Well, to me, this is going to be another penalty-based game. I think we could maybe be seeing quite a high-scoring game, but from both sides, but with maybe a close end result based on the amount of penalties. I'm actually going to say Argentina for this one. I think Argentina's defence is working really strong. It looked like Wales was struggling to gain momentum, to get attacked, to score against New Zealand. I think Argentina's defence is doing well, and I just think the amount of breakdown penalties that Argentina can get, we saw the breakdown penalties against Wales last week. Argentina are more than capable of doing the same thing. I can see Boffelli just kicking this to be a really painful game potentially for Wales. So I'm going to say Argentina to win, and I'm going to say by 8. I'm going to extend it out a bit. I was actually going to say kind of close, but I'm going to say by 8 because it's fun to pick some different scores. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. Make sure you drop your score predictions down there as well, because it's always fun to read through what the community thinks. And if you haven't already, get your scores up on the Super Brew. And we'll be going through those results on Monday's video along with the World Cup rankings. If you enjoyed this one today, guys, remember to leave it a like. I will see you all next time, guys. Bye-bye.